This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, June 5th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Trump declares a travel ban into the U.S. from 19 nations.
We don't want them.
I'm Jeff McKay in Washington.
The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has released its analysis on President Trump's big tax cut and spending bill.
They've always been wrong.
Ed Donahue, Washington.
The family of an alleged terrorist in the United States can stay in America for now. I'm Clayton Neville.
President Trump orders a new Biden auto pen investigation. We'll have details.
On Wall Street, markets were mixed yesterday as investors assess the weakening U.S. economy. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Wicked weather slams the southern plains, causing numerous water rescues and a new arrest in a California bombing. All ahead on America in the Morning. President Trump signs a proclamation that bans or restricts foreign nationals from over a dozen countries from entering the United States. America in the Morning's Jeff McKay reports the president framed the travel ban as necessary to fortify national security.
President Trump's announcement applied to foreign nationals from 12 countries, including Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, the Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen, all deemed very high risk due to terrorist activity, weak or governments hostile to the U.S., and very high visa overstay rates.
The recent terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, has underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them.
The proclamation also involves 9 other nations: Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. Trump called the travel restrictions one of the most successful policies of his first term and cited the recent events in Boulder, Colorado for his action.
In my first term, my powerful travel restrictions were one of our most successful policies, and they were a key part of preventing major foreign terror attacks on American soil.
In the Colorado attack, Mohammed Sabri Soliman is from Egypt and entered the country on a tourist visa before applying for asylum. His tourist visa expired and his asylum case was still pending. Despite Democratic backlash at the time and several legal challenges to the effort, the Supreme Court in a split decision ultimately upheld the policy from his first term, a policy that Trump says is in the best interest of the nation.
We will not allow people to enter our country who wish to do us harm, and nothing will stop us from keeping America safe.
The travel ban restrictions are set to go into effect at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday. I'm Jeff McKay in Washington.
There are concerns Trump's big, beautiful bill will both increase the deficit and cause millions of people to lose health care. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports on Elon Musk's impact on the Trump tax cut bill.
Both parties are responding after Elon Musk blasted President Trump's spending and tax cut bill. Democrats have been quoting Musk's take on what the president calls his big, beautiful bill.
Elon Musk himself called this a big, disgusting abomination.
That's New Mexico Democrat Melanie Stansbury in the House. Musk also wrote on his social media site X, "Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." House Speaker Mike Johnson says he considers Elon Musk a friend, but
I think he's flat wrong. I think he's way off on this, and I've told him as much, and I've said it publicly and privately. I'm very consistent in that.
But the speaker has no hard feelings.
You can't do it all in one bill. It took Congress decades to get to this situation. It's going to take us a little while to get out of it, but we have a very specific plan to do that.
At its core, the package calls for extending the tax cuts approved during the first Trump administration and add new ones the president campaigned on. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has released its analysis on President Trump's big tax cut and spending bill. The numbers show over the next decade there would be close to $4 trillion in tax cuts and more than $2 trillion added to the deficit. Also, close to 11 million more people would be without health insurance by 2034. House Minority Leader Steve Scalise doesn't trust the CBO numbers.
You don't need to go back that far to see how wrong the CBO has been when it comes time to make prognostications on economic growth. They've always been wrong, and they've always ignored what tax cuts will do to grow the American economy.
For Democrats,
this is across-the-board disaster.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says the president's bill isn't big and beautiful, but big and ugly.
What will be enacted is not Donald Trump's soothing words, but the actual reality of harsh cuts where people lose health care, where people's premiums go up, where hospitals close, nursing homes close, and people are laid off.
The president wants to sign the bill on the 4th of July.
All the things that are in this bill are so important for the U.S. economy. It's going to be jet fuel for the U.S. economy. All boats are going to rise. And the sooner we do that, the better. And the risk of not getting it done is enormous, not just for the Republican Party, but for the country.
Ed Donahue, Washington.
Makeshift flamethrower suspect in court. That's When America in the Morning continues after these messages. America in the Morning continues with a look at the national forecast and perhaps another round of showers for the southeast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Today does look wet once again for portions of the southeast that will again be affected as a storm gradually lifts northward along the southeast coastline. Today's greatest risk for steady rain should be just on the north side of the storm from eastern South Carolina through coastal southeastern Virginia, with more of a shower and thunderstorm risk from central Virginia through most of North Carolina, even most of Florida, with the rounds of rain leading to areas of ponding on roadways, while onshore winds bring the risk for some coastal flooding around high tide, along with rough surf and a heightened risk for rip currents. However, a stray thunderstorm may occur in much of the southeast and into interior sections of the south as well, but storms from northern Arkansas and southern Missouri, north and east into all but northern parts of Maine may be severe near and along a cold front this afternoon and into tonight, with hail and strong winds. To the west of there's a bit more support for thunderstorms that may also produce tornadoes, especially in the area from eastern Colorado into west central Texas, much of northern and western Oklahoma, and southern Kansas for today and tonight. Elsewhere in the nation, showers and storms are also on tap from northern Kansas into the Dakotas without so much of a risk for severe weather, and there should be at least spotty coverage of storms from Wyoming and western Colorado through central and southern Utah, perhaps as far west as the Sierra Nevada and California as well. Some of these areas will end up with some relief from drought conditions, but others face a risk for flash flooding instead thanks to those downpours, and some areas of snowmelt should be expected through the parts of the Rockies that will get some rain today. In Savannah, Georgia, watch for showers and a heavy thunderstorm today with a high of 83. For San Francisco, low clouds break for sunshine with a high of 66. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. A federal judge puts the brakes on the potential deportation of the family of the man jailed in the recent firebombing attack in Boulder, Colorado. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports that suspect will appear in court later today.
Mohammed Salman was seen on video shooting fire at pro-Israel demonstrators in Boulder, yelling threats and "Free Palestine," among other phrases. He's an Egyptian national who overstayed his visa.
This terrorist came into our country under the previous administration. Joe Biden's administration foolishly gave him a tourist visa and that allowed him to unlawfully remain in our country. This individual should have been deported.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on Fox News.
Instead, he was welcomed here, and now 3 years later, after coming to this country under Joe Biden's administration, he is lighting Jewish people on fire who were simply trying to peacefully pay respect to the hostages.
Authorities now investigating the attack as an act of terror, and federal hate crime charges are on the table. Solomon has a wife and 5 children from the United States.
The Department of Homeland Security and ICE are taking the family of suspected Boulder, Colorado terrorist and illegal alien Mohammed Solomon into ICE custody.
U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
But we're also investigating to what extent his family knew about this horrific attack, if they had any knowledge of it, or if they provided support to it.
Wednesday, in an emergency ruling, a federal judge in Colorado halted the deportation of Solomon's family. Judge Gordon Gallagher wrote that the family's deportation would cause irreparable harm. The Boulder County District Attorney's Office will formally file state charges against Solomon today, including attempted first-degree murder. I'm Clayton Neville.
President Trump orders administration officials to investigate former President Biden's use of the auto pen to sign documents in an order that raises doubts about his predecessor's mental state during his time in the White House. Trump's directive comes amid similar inquiries at the Department of Justice and in a House committee already underway. Trump directed the investigation to cover whether Biden's aides coordinated to shield the public from information about Biden's mental and physical health. In a recent public appearance, Biden said he was in command of his faculties and still is. When we return on America in the Morning, tariffs, passing the costs on to consumers after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a mixed day for stocks yesterday. Investors just shook off President Trump's post that said negotiating with China's president is extremely hard. Some alarming sentiment in the Fed's new Beige Book report, an overview of the current economic conditions in the U.S. It cites declining growth, slow hiring, and rising prices.
On the inflation front, a little bit worse here. They said prices have increased at a moderate pace since the previous report, and that there were widespread reports of contacts expecting their costs and prices to rise at a faster rate going forward. On the prices, one other piece of Fed news today. The New York Fed was out with a survey this morning showing that 3/4 of businesses surveyed passed at least some of the additional costs due to tariffs directly onto consumers. 1/3 of manufacturers and nearly half in the services sector passed 100% of the cost onto consumers.
CNBC's Megan Casella. Here's Virtus Investments' Joe Terranova on CNBC.
In the near term, the market has the ability to move towards the all-time highs. I acknowledge that. But I do see in the third quarter, there is difficulty ahead, and it's related to an economy that is going to cool. My biggest concern is not inflation, it is growth. And I am concerned that growth is slowing rapidly.
The Trump tax bill will add $2.4 trillion to the deficit and leave almost 11 million people uninsured. The Congressional Budget Office, which is a nonpartisan body, has finished the calculations based on the bill making its way through Congress. Private companies added only 37,000 jobs last month. That was the lowest in more than 2 years, according to payroll firm ADP.
We saw manufacturing, which actually had some surprise increases earlier this year, shed jobs in May. We saw losses in professional business services. We saw losses in healthcare jobs, trade, transportation, and warehousing also shedding jobs.
ADP economist Neela Richardson on CNBC. Tomorrow morning, we'll get the government's May employment report, 8:30 Eastern. Rents are going up on average in the U.S., but not by much. And that's not great news for landlords and rental property investors.
Apartment rent growth is suddenly slowing at a time when it usually ramps up. Rents in May grew by just 0.4% from April. That's less than in May of last year and the year before.
CNBC's Diana Olick. On today's watch list, a load of earnings reports from Land's End, Jack Daniels maker Brown-Forman, Petco, Vail Resorts, and Cracker Barrel. And Walmart and Netflix each hold their annual shareholder meetings today.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return, deadly weather in the Midwest and suspect held in fertility clinic bombing. Those stories when America in the Morning returns after these messages. Welcome back. Here with America in the Morning. Deadly weather leads to at least one death and a number of water rescues. Lisa Dwyer reports.
One man has died in Dallas after his vehicle became stuck in high water during heavy rain and severe weather. A tornado touched down in the Kansas City area, and firefighters made about 70 water rescues around Wichita, Kansas. Colin Fee caught one rescue in a video and blames the city for not addressing drainage in his neighborhood.
The city of Wichita has elected again and again not to address the flooding issue in my street. And this is what happens.
As rescuers in a boat worked to pull the woman to safety, Fee says,
people's lives are at risk. Firefighters' lives are at risk. We have no drainage at this intersection of my house.
With more storms in the forecast, officials warn that the soil in the area is saturated, and even an inch or two of rainfall could lead to localized flooding. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
A Washington state man is under arrest, charged in connection with a California fertility clinic bombing. Correspondent Julie Walker is following the story.
The FBI says Daniel Park provided chemical explosives to Guy Edward Bartkus, an antinatalist who was killed during the bombing of a Palm Springs, California fertility clinic in May. U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley.
Mr. Park, who shares Bartkus's extremist beliefs, is accused of shipping approximately 180 pounds of ammonium nitrate, an explosive precursor commonly used to construct homemade bombs, to Bartkus.
He says the Seattle man supplied another 90 pounds of explosive material and was hands-on.
Spending time together, running experiments in Bartkus's garage.
The FBI says the pair met on chat forums devoted to antinatalism, the theory that opposes childbirth. Audio courtesy ABC 7 Los Angeles. I'm Julie Walker.
America in the Morning for Thursday, June 5th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
The Commerce Secretary talks tariffs at a Senate hearing. I'm Rich Johnson.
Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro says the state is suing the U.S. Department of Agriculture in federal court. I'm Jennifer King.
Karine Jean-Pierre quits the Democratic Party to become an independent and slams the White House. I'm Sue Aller.
Air quality alerts in effect for parts of the country being hit by smoke from the Canadian wildfires. I'm Julie Walker.
A Putin-Trump phone call. Trump ups the ante against Harvard, and a name change causes San Francisco outrage.
One of the most anticipated films of 2025 has released its first trailer. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. You're with America in the Morning on this, the first Thursday of June, and showers are popping up. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Today's severe weather risk will be focused along a very long front winding its way from interior New England into the central high plains. The threat in the eastern two-thirds of this risk zone will result mainly from the cold front crashing into warm and moist air ahead of it from parts of the south into the northeast, with storms from southern Missouri and northern Arkansas through much of Ohio and mainly northern New England, capable of producing hail and damaging wind gusts this afternoon and into tonight. Storms from Oklahoma and southern Kansas to the Big Bend and Panhandle areas of Texas and northward to the eastern suburbs of Denver will be sparked not by the cold side of the front, but the battleground between moist and dry air, as well as by some energy from high up in the atmosphere, allowing for not only wind and hail, but a tornado risk in those areas as well. The eastern portion of that severe risk zone includes some places where a wet May has led to plenty of warmth and a summer preview to start June. And today, AccuWeather real field temperatures will range from the 80s in much of New England to 90s, perhaps near 100 at times, from southeastern New Hampshire through New Jersey and across Virginia, much of Kentucky, and all but the highest terrain of West Virginia as more humidity arrives. However, farther to the south, a slow-moving storm will progress near the coast of the Carolinas, bringing more showers and thunderstorms from Florida through much of Georgia and central Virginia, and some steadier rain from northeastern South Carolina into southeastern Virginia, with minor coastal flooding expected at high tide, along with rip currents. Expect showers at times and some thunderstorms from the north central plains to southern Nevada and northern parts of the Four Corners region, but otherwise, most of the west looks dry today as the northwest starts to warm up ahead of a heat wave. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick under fire from both sides of the political aisle at a Senate hearing on tariffs, as well as a number of programs that received funding cuts from the Trump administration. A recap from correspondent Rich Johnson.
When it comes to tariff negotiations, Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy presented Lutnick with a best-case scenario.
If Vietnam, for example, came to you tomorrow and said, okay, Mr. Secretary, you win. We're going to remove all tariffs and all trade barriers. Would the United States please do the same? Would you accept that deal?
Absolutely not. Okay. Absolutely not. That would be the silliest thing we could do.
Kennedy then asked, doesn't that contradict the White House goal of lowering tariffs on both sides?
Are you or are you not seeking reciprocity in these trade deals?
We are absolutely seeking reciprocity with respect to things that can be reciprocal.
But you just said,
but when they're importing from China and sending it to us, they're not.
Lutnick referred to transshipment, Vietnam buying finished goods from China, then relabeling them as made in Vietnam. Hanoi's promised to reduce that practice, but the vast majority of Chinese goods that Vietnam imports are parts and raw materials that are then assembled in Vietnam and exported to the U.S. and elsewhere. At the Senate Commerce Committee hearing, Lutnick also defended cuts to the National Weather Service.
Under no circumstances am I going to let public safety or public forecasting be touched. But I tell you what we did cut. We did cut programs writing children's books for climate anxiety. Yes, that was in NOAA. And you agree with me, that's not part of our mission.
Wednesday's hearing coincided with the White House imposing 50% tariffs on imported steel and aluminum. Economists say that will affect the price of cars, homes, appliances, soup cans, and even paper clips. I'm Rich Johnson.
President Trump spent over an hour on the phone with Russian President Vladimir Putin, who says no ceasefire is in the works and the Kremlin will retaliate after Ukraine launched that unprecedented drone strike, damaging and destroying dozens of their most sophisticated bomber planes. Lisa Dwyer reports that while Volodymyr Zelensky is pushing for direct talks, the war is not diminishing.
President Donald Trump says that Russian President Vladimir Putin told him very strongly in a phone call that he will have to respond to Ukraine's drone attack on Russian airfields. Trump adds that it was a good conversation, but not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace. During a Russian cabinet meeting, Putin called the leadership in Kyiv illegitimate and that Ukraine is conducting acts of terrorism. At a Brussels teleconference,
we have no doubt that we can push Russia toward peace. But for that, we must continue to pressure Moscow with all available tools and step by step make its aggression meaningless.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged Western backers to speed up deliveries of air defense systems to counter ongoing Russian missile strikes against Ukraine.
From him, we can't wait for his initiative moving to peace. We just have to pressure on him, and maybe we will get peace.
German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius.
Russia will fail because brave Ukrainians are defending their country and their freedom, confronting the Russian aggressor with great resolve. And because we are supporting Ukraine in its defense with weapons, ammunition, training, with everything it needs, and for as long as it needs.
A message echoed by UK Defense Secretary John Healey.
But this is not just Ukraine's battle. It's a battle for the security of Europe.
I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Back here at home, a state announces a lawsuit against the federal government, this time over cutting food aid. Jennifer King reports.
Pennsylvania's Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro says the state is suing the U.S. Department of Agriculture in federal court for cutting off funding for food aid.
They made a deal with Pennsylvania, and they illegally broke it.
The 3-year, $13 million contract was to provide money that the state planned to use to buy cheese, eggs, meat, fruits, and vegetables from farms to stock food banks, school nutrition programs, and child care centers. The cuts come 3 months after the USDA advised states it was ending the pandemic-era assistance program because it no longer reflected agency priorities.
I don't get that. I don't get what the hell their priorities are if not feeding people and taking care of our farmers.
George Matisic is the executive director of Pennsylvania's Share Food program.
A program merely intended for food banks like us to partner with local farmers to provide food to our partner organizations and those in need.
Governor Shapiro says he's confident the state will win the lawsuit.
We had a deal with the federal government, President Trump. You had a deal with Pennsylvania farmers putting food on our tables. You had a deal with food banks serving 67 counties trying to alleviate poverty. And above all, Mr. President, you had a deal with the American people, and you broke your word.
I'm Jennifer King.
There's a follow-up to a story we brought you earlier this week involving a Navy ship and why San Francisco city leaders are upset. We'll have that story, and Trump takes new aim at Harvard when America in the Morning continues after these messages. There was another salvo fired against Harvard University. President Trump suspends the Ivy League school from participating in the student visa program, effectively prohibiting foreign nationals from attending what has traditionally been the nation's most prominent university. The proclamation from the White House escalates an already tense situation between Trump and Harvard, seeking to prevent students from receiving visas to study for 6 months and perhaps longer. The escalation comes as Harvard has declined to negotiate with Trump after the school rejected a series of demands from the administration's task force to combat anti-Semitism. Around a quarter of Harvard's student population comes from abroad in what could be a prelude to another court battle. A spokesman for Harvard called the White House action another retaliatory step violating Harvard's First Amendment rights. America in the Morning continues. Former White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre has a tell-all book about her time in the White House coming out, and in another telling move, says she's leaving the Democrat Party. Sue Aller has details.
In a surprising political shift, former White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says she's leaving the Democratic Party and registering as an independent. Jean-Pierre, who made history as the first Black and openly LGBTQ person to hold the role, says it's time to move beyond party lines. She's also releasing a new memoir this fall titled Independent, a look at a broken White House outside the party lines. The book promises a behind-the-scenes account of dysfunction and betrayal inside the Biden administration, particularly in the tense lead-up to President Biden's decision not to seek re-election in 2024. During a recent appearance at Harvard's Institute of Politics, Jean-Pierre didn't hold back.
I think there's going to be a lot of pulling back the curtain, as there has been for some time in the last couple months, about what happened. And I think there's a lot there.
She also says that social media played a role during her time in the White House.
We're dealing with social media, which is an ecosystem that is just 24/7, and it is so hard to break through that.
She says her departure is about putting principle over politics. Independent hits the shelves October 21st. I'm Sue Aller.
Where there's smoke, there's fire, and even though the fires are in Canada, the smoke is having a serious impact in a number of states in America. Correspondent Julie Walker has been reporting this week on Canadian wildfire smoke, causing very unhealthy conditions.
Air quality alerts in effect for parts of the country being hit by smoke from the Canadian wildfires. National Weather Service meteorologist Mark Chenard says when smoke is elevated, it's not much of a problem, but when that smoke reaches surface levels, you get poor air quality.
The lowest air quality, the densest smoke near the surface, again, is kind of back west, a little bit closer to the source of the fires. So we're talking more like Iowa up into the UP and Michigan, and then the eastern U.S., really anywhere from Georgia to New England, will have some impact, maybe not to that extent, but still some impact, and there are some air quality alerts out east.
Canada is having another bad wildfire season, and more than 27,000 people in 3 provinces have been forced to evacuate. I'm Julie Walker.
Some San Francisco city leaders are up in arms over a Pentagon plan to rename a Navy ship. Correspondent Ed Donahue files this report.
San Francisco leaders are blasting President Trump for trying to erase gay rights icon Harvey Milk's name from a Navy ship. Milk was a city supervisor in San Francisco. In 1978, he was shot and killed along with Mayor George Moscone by a disgruntled former supervisor. Also,
Harvey Milk had served in the Navy.
The USNS Harvey Milk was named in 2016. An internal Pentagon memo says the name will be taken off the ship. It's part of a Trump administration push to purge references to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Scott Wiener is a San Francisco state lawmaker.
They are now doing this horrible thing during Pride Month. It's disgusting.
Roberto Odnayana with the GLBT Historical Society says you can take a name off a ship,
but you're not going to remove, the incredible legacy that Harvey Milk and so many others whose shoulders we stand on.
Renaming of ships has been rare. I'm Ed Donahue.
Big blogging platform Reddit is suing Anthropic AI for illegally using their content to train its artificial intelligence. Chuck Palm explains in today's Tech Report.
In the ongoing struggle to train AI or protect copyrighted intellectual properties, yet another lawsuit has been filed. Reddit is suing Anthropic for allegedly using the site's data to train AI models without licensing that content. The legal complaint was filed in Northern California on Wednesday, and Reddit claims Anthropic's unauthorized use of the site's data for their training purposes was unlawful and that they violated Reddit's user agreement. This particular lawsuit marks the first big tech company to legally challenge an AI model provider over its training data practices, and joins a litany of publishers that have sued these companies on similar grounds. Even celebrities like comedian Sarah Silverman and other book authors have sued Meta for training their AI models on those books without their approval. It should be noted that Reddit has deals with other AI model providers, including OpenAI and Google, but claims they subject them to certain terms that protect their users' privacy. For more, find me at chuckpalm.com.
We've got NBA and baseball happening in sports. Here's Robert Workman.
The Edmonton Oilers took the opening game of the Stanley Cup Finals 4-3 over the Florida Panthers in overtime last night. Leon Draisaitl with the first goal of the night 66 seconds after the opening faceoff, and the last 31 seconds before the end of the first OT period. In between, the Cats grabbed the lead before the home team bounced back. Game 2 tomorrow in Edmonton. NBA Finals begin tonight in Oklahoma City, the Thunder against the Pacers. At the French Open, top seed Jannik Sinner and number 6 Novak Djokovic advanced to the semifinals on Friday. The Joker now just 2 wins away from a record 25th Grand Slam singles title. Today, it's the women's semis. Number 1 Aryna Sabalenka and 3-time defending French champ Iga Swiatek. Then, number 2 Coco Gauff against French wildcard Lois Boisson. Baseball, after losing 22 series in a row, the Colorado Rockies completed a 3-game sweep of the Marlins Wednesday, 3-2 in Miami. Hunter Goodman drove in the go-ahead run in each of those 3 games. Guardians whitewashed the Yankees 4-0, Luis Ortiz and the Teasers with a 5-hitter. Pirates blanked the Astros 3-0. Rookie Mike Burrows gets his first win as a starter on a combined 7-hitter.
I think I came out with a little bit of adrenaline, got 3-0 on them, and then settled in from there. I think I overcomplicated the game in the first 2 outings, and I just kept it simple and made the pitches and tried to get quick outs tonight.
Nationals shut out the Cubs 2-0. Chicago's Matthew Boyd was perfect through 5 innings, then surrendered a leadoff home run to Ahmed Rosario in the 7th, while Mackenzie Gore and 2 relievers scattered 5 hits for the Goose Egg. That's Thursday Sports.
Thank you, sir. Defiantly staring down the barrel of a tank in China. When America in the Morning returns after these messages. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are teaming up again as Wicked for Good drops its first movie trailer. A preview from entertainment reporter Kevin Carr.
Fans of last year's hit musical Wicked got a treat on Wednesday.
Although with Rob, I know you're out here. Just come in before the monkeys spot you.
The wildly popular musical returned to theaters for one night, and along with it, Universal dropped the first trailer for the upcoming second half of the story.
Think of what we could do. together.
The new trailer features the song For Good, sung by Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, as well as No Good Deed, sung by Erivo.
There's no going back. This is between us, the wizard and I.
And if you felt the first film had too many songs in it, too bad. In an interview with Vanity Fair, director John M. Chu confirmed that the sequel will feature 2 new songs, one for each of its stars. And honestly, if you're tired of songs, why are you watching Wicked in the first place?
I'm off to see the wizard.
The trailer hints at the story of Elphaba in exile while Glinda tries to hold their friendship together. We also see some brief glimpses of Dorothy Gale and the original characters from The Wizard of Oz.
Bring me the broom of the Wicked Witch of the West.
Wicked Part 1 earned more than $750 million worldwide, making it the highest-grossing Broadway adaptation in history. The second half, officially titled Wicked for Good, will hit theaters on November 21st. I'm Kevin Carr.
For most Chinese people and in Hong Kong, the 36th anniversary of a bloody crackdown that ended pro-democracy protests in China passed like any other weekday. However, as correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports, the events and memories of Tiananmen Square are still fresh in the minds of many.
In Hong Kong, a carnival showcasing Chinese food and products was held in Victoria Park, where tens of thousands of people used to gather in the evening for a candlelight vigil to mark the anniversary of weeks of student-led protests at Beijing's Tiananmen Square, which shook the party and the country in 1989. In Hong Kong, resident Happy Lam tells the AP this is a historic incident that everyone should know about. This should never be forgotten. While Alex Lee, also a Hong Kong resident, would like there to be a public acknowledgement of the 1989 Tiananmen Square events, but understands why there appears to be less interest today.
Yes, I think there should be, but I think things have changed. So I think people also have now different opinion, and because there are some I think, things above their control.
Hong Kong authorities first shut down the candlelight vigil during the COVID-19 pandemic and arrested the organisers in 2021. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
America in the Morning for Thursday, June 5th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.